Welcome back to the Emmanuel Leadership Journey Next Steps class. This is our final session on Emmanuel Leadership Expectations. And our focus in this presentation will just be some specific other thoughts in regards to leadership expectations. Some of you do not work with minors and others of you will be, but we want you to know that we have a rule of 3 for any leader who is working with minors. What that means is that an adult should never be with one student or one child by themselves. You should not be meeting someone for coffee by yourself. You should not be taking one student to the bathroom alone. We want to make sure that there's a rule of 3, either 2 students and you or 2 leaders and a student, always making sure there's a rule of 3. Second of all, we do have a confidentiality agreement that we have in regards to what our responsibility is. As a church, we are a mandatory reporter. There is a handout on the Right Now Media page that identifies some areas of confidentiality that are important for us to hold to. We want to make sure that if someone talks to you about harming themselves or harming somebody else, talking to you about being abused, or talking to you about criminal activity, as a mandatory reporter, we are not able to keep that to ourselves. So you want to be careful, especially when a minor comes to you and says, hey, can I tell you something and promise you won't tell anybody else? That's a clear indication that you want to make sure that you, before you head into that conversation, say, hey, look, if you're going to tell me something about being abused, about harming yourself, suicidal thoughts, anything like that, please know that I will need to go to your parents. It's really important that we follow that process. We also want you to know that as leaders, we're not expecting you to be the ones that make the call. And so if somebody comes to you and reports something in these areas, the process is that you would go to your ministry head or your department head, the pastoral covering that's in your area, and the pastor will take it from there and will handle alerting social services if that's necessary, or if it's an adult, getting the adult the necessary help that they need. In regards to leading your small group, as a leader, you're going to have a nucleus of people that you're going to be responsible for. And what we're expecting is that you're building a friendship with the people in your group. Remember, you're their shepherd. So you're watching out for them. You're making sure they're around. If they're not around, maybe you're sending them a quick text, not making them feel guilty, but just saying, hey, wondering where you were tonight, making sure everything's okay. One of the things that I'm used to doing in my own personal life is using a journal or my memo on my phone to keep a log of the prayer requests or the facts, the phone numbers. People tell me things, and I have good intentions of remembering when I get back to my office. But usually what I do is try to write it down so that I don't forget. It also helps me as I'm in prayer during the week for the people who I'm responsible for to remember the prayer requests that they've shared with me. We're also asking that you send an update to your ministry coordinator or the pastor that's over your area. Report the wins that you're experiencing, or if you have any needs, whether they're personal needs or a resource need that you need some training on. Make sure you're talking to your coordinator or your pastor. And also giving them a heads up on vacation or if you need time off. You'll be getting some specific training about leading a small group in your various areas, but just some things to be mindful of as you're looking at leading your small group. One is make sure you're prepared. Be prayed up, be planned up. Make sure you have your activity ready, your lesson. Don't just wing it as you go into a small group meeting. Also, provide time for interaction. Sometimes people can't think on the spot, so make sure you're providing them some think time. And don't be afraid to give them some type of homework assignment, something to read or think about over the next few days before you meet together again. Then, as a true shepherd, being aware of the people in your group and guiding your discussions appropriately, being aware of people who might monopolize the conversation or of someone who's not saying anything, just letting people know that this is a safe place. I found that it's helpful to establish some group norms, and on the Right Now Media page, you can see the handout that's there on the group norms for the recovery ministry here, the manual. It's just important to talk about what are you expecting from each other. Are you expecting each other to be on time, to notify each other if you're not going to be around, or maybe even some group norms in regards to how you're going to respond to each other's feedback. Establishing these as a group is really important. And as I've mentioned, you're going to receive more specific information in your ministry areas on how to lead a small group specific to your area of ministry. Thanks for listening to this last session on leadership expectations. I'm going to direct you back to the Right Now Media page and the reflection questions on this session.